Welcome back. So in the previous video I probably asked you to read a quotation. You read it and some of you understood, some of you didn't understand a single bit. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So let's read it. As usual, our tailless monkeys and tailed monkeys and untailed monkeys all are there with students sitting patiently. So historical enemies succeeded in negotiating a peaceful transition from apartheid to democracy exactly because we were prepared to accept inherent capacity for goodness in the other. Inherent is latent. The capacity is there in us. What is the capacity for goodness in the other? Now Mandela's wish is what? Let's see. Mandela's wish. My wish is that South Africans never give up on the belief in goodness, that they cherish that faith in human beings is the cornerstone of our democracy. Faith in human beings. Faith in humanity. Clear? That's what he said. What did he say? That, what is his wish? The South Africans never give up. Leave it. What they shouldn't leave? On the belief in goodness. Because this is the cornerstone of their democracy. That's what he said. Clear? Let's see. After the emergence of the new South African, after the emergence of the new democratic South Africa, black leaders appealed to fellow blacks for what? To forgive the whites for the atrocities they had committed while in power. So there was the message of mass forgiveness. The blacks requested the other blacks forgive them. Don't do anything. Clear now? That was the message conveyed. Clear? They said, let us build a new South Africa based on equality of all races and men and women, on democratic values, social justice and human rights. The party that ruled through oppression, means exploitation and brutal killings, very cruel killings, and the party that led the freedom struggle sat together, met, there was a meeting, conversation, to draw up a common constitution. So what is that constitution? As I told you, set of rules. What is a constitution? A constitution is the supreme law of a country, containing fundamental rules governing the politics and society in a country. What is it? It is the supreme law of a country containing fundamental basic rules that governs the politics and society in a country. Clear now? Clear? Good. After 2 years of discussion and debate, they came out with one of the finest constitutions the world has ever had. So South African constitution as of now is considered as one of the best constitutions, best democratic constitutions in the world. Clear? So what it tells? The constitution gave to its citizens the most extensive rights available in any country. Together, they decided that in the search for a solution to the problems, nobody should be excluded. No one should be treated as a demon. You understand demon? They agreed that everybody should become the part of the solution. Whatever they might have done or represented in the past, no matter. What you did in the past is a different thing. From today, let's start from today. Let's have a new beginning. Let's contribute for the development of a new country. Clear? That's what they went for. The preamble to the South African Constitution sums up the spirit. And does the preamble sums up the spirit? Preamble, you understand? The beginning statements, beginning things. What is it? An introductory statement in a constitution which states the reasons and guiding values of the constitution. For example, in our constitution, we the people of India, having solemnly resolved to declare India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, this will come up with. In the same way, South Africa also has its preamble. The South African Constitution has its preamble and it clearly states it. Clear? So, if you look at it, you find an image. It is there in your book also. If you look at it, you will find. Okay? That one. Don't turn back. At the beginning here. Clear? At page number 21, you will find it. Good. Now, the South African Constitution inspires Democrats all over the world. Democrats means those who support democracy. Clear? So, Democrats all over the world are inspired by the South African Constitution, a state denounced by the entire world till recently as the most undemocratic one is now seen as the model of democracy. See, South Africa was condemned as an undemocratic country. Now it is the best democracy in the world. What made this change possible was the determination of the people of South Africa to work together, to transform determination of the people of South Africa to work together to transform bitter experience into the binding blue you understand, adhesive blue of a rainbow nation. Speaking on the South African Constitution, Mandela said, the Constitution of South Africa speaks of both the past and the future. On the one hand, it is solemn pact in which we, as South Africans, declare to one another that we shall never permit a repetition of our racist, brutal and repressive past. That was the promise made to one another by us. But it is more than that. It is also a charter, you understand, a document, a charter for the transformation of a country into one which is truly shared by all its people. A country which in the fullest sense belongs to all of us, black and white, women and men. That is what Mandela said. So it's a democracy where everybody has representation, which thinks of every individual, which thinks of every race, every section of the society. Clear? And so they came up together for a change because they wanted to bring in a positive change, and hence they were successful in bringing the change. Clear to you? They did it because all the people, both the oppressor and the oppressed, all came alike for a change, and thus the change came into existence. Clear? Now the question comes in. South Africa, the people of South Africa fought, moved, and then they became successful. Then why did they give so much importance to the Constitution? What is it that led them to do so? What is it? This is what we need to go for it. Because in your class 8, you came across the chapter, you read the chapter, why do you need a constitution? Clear? So this is what here also. Let's see. The South African example is a good way to understand why we need a constitution and what do constitutions do. The oppressor and the oppressed in this new democracy were planning to live together as equals. It was not going to be easy for them to trust each other. They had their kind of fears. They wanted to safeguard and protect their interests. The black majority was keen to ensure that the democratic principle of majority rule was not compromised. They wanted substantial social and economic rights. The white minority was keen to protect its privileges and property. What is it? See, both the sections were a little bit hesitant to accept each other. At the same time, both the sections contributed properly. Clear? And thus came a beautiful democracy. Clear? So what was it? The oppressor and the oppressed in this new democracy were planning to live together as equals. That's the first point. They were planning to live together as equals. It was not going to be easy for them to trust each other. They had their kind of fears. They wanted to safeguard their interests, protect their interests. The black majority was keen to ensure that the democratic principle of majority rule was not compromised. Clear? Because democracy supports what? Rule of the majority. That must not be compromised. On the other side, they wanted substantial social and economic rights because they were poor. They were kept poor, left to suffer as poor. Clear? The white minority was keen to protect its privileges and property. On the other side, the white minority, they wanted to have their privileges. We used to get these benefits. We used to have this identity. We had our property. We need to protect it. Clear to you? They wanted to have it. After long negotiations, both parties agreed to compromise. Understood? It's not that they did once, sat once and met up and sorted out. No. They took a lot of time to adjust and come up with solutions. They took a lot of time. Clear? The whites agreed to the principle of majority rule and that of one person, one vote. Ireland was not there. Clear? They also agreed to accept some basic rights for the poor and the workers. Clear? The blacks agreed that the majority rule would not be absolute. Clear? It's not like every decision is yours, you are majority, so you can kill the minority, not like that. It cannot be absolute rule. They agreed that the majority would not take away the property of the white minority. This compromise was not so easy. How was this compromise going to be implemented? That's the question. Clear? Even if they managed to trust each other, what was the guarantee that this trust will not be broken in future? So these are the questions that cropped up. Clear? So they need to get ensured that everybody, each section will be safe. So what process could they come up with to maintain their safety? That was the question. What could they do? Clear? Still, so it took a long time to come up for a negotiation. Is that clear now? Good. The only way to build and maintain trust in such a situation is to write down some rules of the game that everyone would abide by. Clear? So when you have rules, nobody will violate. Otherwise, if it is oral or if it is not set as a rule, what will happen? And if they will, oh, so what? I said so what? I will change it. So it must be there as the base rule, so that it cannot be changed. Just like you see in games, we have preset rules which each party must follow. Understood? That is what happens. These rules lay down how the rulers are to be chosen in future. These rules also determine what the elected governments are empowered to do and what they cannot do. Finally, these rules decide the rights of the citizen. These rules will work only if the winner cannot change them very easily. Now, if the winner once he wins and changes the rule, what will happen? It cannot exist as a democracy. Clear? So you have to restrict the winner from misusing his power. Clear? So that is what is important. If this is ascertained, you can say, yeah, we can have a rule of law in the country. Clear? So these rules will work only if the winner cannot change them very easily. This is what the South Africans did. They agreed on some basic rules. They also agreed that these rulers will be supreme, but no government will be able to ignore these. These rules will be supreme and no government will be able to ignore these rules. This set of basic rules is called a constitution. Clear? Up to this is clear? Clear? Constitution making is not unique to South Africa. Every country has diverse groups of people. We know it pretty well. The relationship may not have been as bad as that between the whites and the blacks in South Africa. But all over the world, people have differences of opinion and interest. Whether democratic or not, most countries in the world need to have these basic rules. That is constitution. This applies not just to governments. Any association needs to have its constitution. Any organization. It needs to have, because without rule, nothing can work in the country. Even in your family also, we cannot go without rule. There are some systems, some rules that must be followed. Otherwise things will be very chaotic. You understand it? So it's needed. It could be a club in your area, a cooperative society or a political party. They all need a constitution. A constitution is a must. I hope it is clear.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Thus, the constitution of a country is a set of written rules that are accepted by all people living together in a country. Constitution is the supreme law that determines the relationship among people living in a territory. And so they are called citizens of that territory. Also, the relationship between the people and government. Done? Is clear? A constitution does many things. Number one, it generates a degree of trust and coordination. Trust and coordination that it's necessary for different kind of people to live together. Without coordination, you cannot live together, and that is ascertained by the constitution. Clear? Second, it specifies how the government will be constituted. Who will have power to take which decision? These are specified. Clear? Thirdly, it lays down limits on the powers of the government. Limits, you understand? It restricts the government from misusing its power. It sets the rule. You can use your power in this specific manner, not in any other manner. Clear? This is how it regulates. Fourthly, it expresses the aspirations of the people about creating a good society. Understood? So the first question for you is, what do you mean by a constitution? What does a constitution do? What do you mean by a constitution? What do you mean by a constitution? Mean by a constitution? What does a constitution do? Or what does it do? What does it do? Now, all countries that have constitutions are not necessarily democratic. It's not that you have to have a democracy to have a constitution. It's not like that. But all countries that are democratic will have constitutions. You have to understand the statement. All countries with constitution is not that it has to be democratic also at the same time. But all democracies must have constitutions. Clear? After the War of Independence against Great Britain, the Americans gave themselves a constitution. After the revolution, the French people approved a democratic constitution. You know about it. Since then, it has become a practice in all democracies to have a written constitution. Now it will be India specific. Until this point is clear to you? Clear? Now it will be India specific. How India came up with her constitution. Clear? Like South Africa, India's constitution was also drawn up under very difficult circumstances. The making of the constitution for a huge and diverse country like India was not an easy affair. At that time, the people of India were emerging from the status of subject to that of citizens because they were under the rule of the British. Clear? The country was born through a partition on the basis of religious differences. We know about it. Clear? They came up with an Islamic country and the rest was made a secular country. Clear? India got divided. The mother got cut into pieces. They came up with Pakistan and East Pakistan, which is presently known as West and East Pakistan, which is presently known as Bangladesh. Clear? So they came up with a country on the basis of religion. They cut a part of our country and made a religious country. Clear? On the other side, we remained a secular country, considering or giving equal status to all. Clear? Rather more facilities to the minorities. Clear to you? Now what happened next? At that time, the people of India were emerging from the status of subjects to the citizens. But what happened? A country was born on the basis of religion. Clear? Religious differences became the benchmark. And India came into existence. This was a traumatic experience for the people of India and Pakistan. Clear? Understood? Because people had to shift from one country to another. At least 10 lakh people were killed on both sides of the border in partition-related violence. Such a nonsense it was. And it's not about partition only. Even before partition, Jinnah and others were there who held it compulsory. They went for direct action day. And a mass massacre was started in Kolkata and then in Noakhali also. Clear? The Hindus were killed in lakhs. Women were raped. The vermilion mark on their head was wiped with the legs, and then they were forcefully converted, raped and converted. Clear? There are retaliations in Pakistan also. The people from India, as a retaliatory fact, the Muslims were also killed. Clear? The movement this way, many people were killed in the process. And thus came up a country known as India. Understood? Lakhs of people were killed. There was another problem. The British had left it to the rulers of the princely states to decide whether they wanted to march with India or with Pakistan or remain independent. The merger of these princely states was a difficult and uncertain task. You see, what was done? We know during the British rule, there are two kinds of states, because India was divided into many states ruled by different rulers when British came and when British was there. There are colonized territories and princely territories where the princes and the kings used to pay taxes to the British government. Now when the British left India at that time, they did not settle it down. They said what? The colonies which were under the British rule were given to India and Pakistan, but they did not decide the fate of the princely states where kings and royal families they are ruling. They said it's up to the royal families to decide whether they will go with India or with Pakistan. It was their decision. Now, what actually happened after that? That was the point. Clear? I want you to read this last part a little. Just read this for once. So you have read it? You have read it? Good. So what happened? When the constitution was being written, the future of democracy did not look as secure as it does today. Clear? The makers of the constitution had anxiety. Sorry. The makers of the constitution had anxieties about the present and the future of the country. It's all uncertainties, full of bloodshed and all. The path to constitution, what happened after that? It is to be known. We will have it in the next video. So this is okay?
Yes, sir.